All right. Good evening, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, and all of the others that we are connected to. This is Brian Forbes, and you are tuned in to The Black Factor. So good evening, Black Factor family. We are in the building, and we ready to rock. So tonight, I want to discuss something that y'all know when stuff gets heavy on my mind, I got to kind of get into it a little bit and talk about what those things that are on my mind that I need to get off, if you will. And this is going to be one of those things. So tonight, I want to talk about, well, actually, I got a few things to talk about. We're going to mix it up tonight. We're going to do something a little different. We're not going to stick specifically to the topics at hand, but we must remember that it is Women's Month. So, of course, we're going to talk a little bit about the women. We got to always talk about the women. We got to keep the women in the forefront, which we should do anyway. But we're going to keep the ladies up front during the show tonight, like always, and make sure that we continue to promote Black girl magic. And like I have to always say, I don't have to say it, but I'm going to say it. Since this is the Black Factor, we're going to focus on all things black. I'm not going to get into that whole all lives matter crap, because the fact of the matter is all lives are not the ones that are having issues right now. However, black lives are. So those are the ones that matter, and those are the ones that matter to me. So with all of that being said, ladies and gentlemen, let's get this party started. All right. So today has been somewhat of an few interesting developments. And as you all know, we at the Black Factor often have to add perspective, and that's what I'm here to do tonight. I'm going to give you some perspective on some of the things that are taking place, because there's so much happening, man, right now, and we got to deal with these things. So before we get going, y'all don't forget, you can always catch this show on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Periscope, Instagram, and YouTube. Damn it, man. And you can also download the Oh So Smooth Radio app, because every Wednesday I simulcast, and you can check the show out without watching, but you can listen in through that app, Oh So Smooth Radio. And that app is available on Play Store and Apple iTunes and so on and so forth. So just be sure to hit that like button, subscribe button, share button, hit all them buttons when you're dealing with the Black Factor, because all them buttons, you need to use them. Make it do what it do, y'all. Okay. Tina Marie is in the building. Hey, Tina Marie. Tina said, happy Freedom Friday. That's what's up. Val Wells. Hey, Val. My number one fan. I like Val. So check this out, y'all. What's the story with this coronavirus thing? Is it just me, or are we pretending like this thing is not out here? What am I missing? The numbers still are not. They're down and they're going down, but I mean, we're not out of the woods. Is it just me? I'm serious. I'm trying to understand. I don't get it. I mean, are we taking our foot off the brake? Are we setting ourselves up for the fourth wave of coronavirus? I mean, shit, I've seen people out here, man, they out here partying and hanging out at major events. In fact, there's an event coming up. I don't know if it was a baseball game or some event. I don't remember what it was. But anyway, they're allowing full attendance. I'm sorry, y'all. I don't see it. And maybe I'll just be late like always. I'll be behind the curve when it comes to all of the events in coronavirus. I just wait because I'm still, I ain't ready. I ain't ready, y'all. It's people still out here dying left and right. But hey, if that's what they choose to do, more power to them. Now, before we get going into the topic for tonight, which is going to be Jim Crow. And Jim Crow we're going to talk about tonight because it applies to what's happening with us right now. A lot of people may not understand that, but we're going to talk about it because that's what we do with the Black Factor. But before we go, George Floyd, y'all. So they got, the other day they only had, well, last show, which was Wednesday, there were 3 jurors. Now they are up to 7 so far. And apparently it's a pretty diverse crowd. The jury is. So far, they have 3 white males, 1 black male, 1 Hispanic male. So there's 5 men and 2 women, 1 white woman and 1 mixed race woman. Now, the interesting thing about these 7 jurors so far for Derek Chauvin is that all of them are in their 20s and 30s. And I'm wondering how that's going to look for him. Is that going to be a good look or not? And I'm saying that only because, you know, that generation tends to be way more liberal, way more not so rigid in their thinking when it comes to humanity. So I'm wondering, is that going to play against him or for him? Be interesting to see. I was sitting up there, I was sitting there thinking to myself, I was wondering now, if I lived there in Minnesota and they called me for a jury, with everything that I know and all the things that I've seen in regard to this case, could I be a juror? Could I be an unbiased juror that could make a decision based on the evidence presented in court, of course, and not what we've heard in the media or what we think or how we feel about what's taking place? Because the jurors are supposed to operate off of what the evidence presented. And the fact is, I don't know what the defense is going to try and use as or use to defend the actions of Derek Chauvin, who leaned on the neck of George Floyd for a period of 8 minutes and 46 seconds. I'm just not sure. And then just me thinking about that part right there, maybe I wouldn't be so non-biased. Maybe I would probably be a little more as a matter of fact, bruh. So I don't know. And there's actually 2 of the jurors. One of them actually said that he has never seen any of the videotape surrounding the George Floyd case. And I would have to question whether or not he'd been under a rock on another planet or something, because I don't know how he could have possibly avoided all of that publicity that has gone on surrounding that case. So I don't know. And today, the city of Minneapolis awarded the family, George Floyd's estate, $27 million. And that's the most Minneapolis has ever paid anybody. So they are about to get a fat ass check over there. Cynthia Coates, I see you. Thank you for checking in. Mr. Lapp is in the building. Tracy Loggins. Alejandro, my man Alex. We got TC Bay in the building. Oh, you go ahead on, girl. Val. So they are about to get a big fat check to the tune of 27 million. So yeah, this is one of those classic cases of he's worth more dead than he was alive, because they definitely getting paid. Now, I was wondering, the topic came up today between myself and some other people, and we were curious as to, and I don't even know how this came up, distribution of those funds. And I'm wondering, will his daughter be the recipient of that money? I guess she would be his next of kin, but I think he has 2 children, if I'm not mistaken. I believe it's a son and a daughter. This is going to be very interesting. And I'm wondering, is there going to be a lot of infighting and that sort of thing in the Floyd family behind this settlement? Who knows? Don't know, because I do believe that he and the mother of his daughter were somewhat estranged. Now, will that money go into some sort of a trust for her? Or will there be division in regard to relation? Because I know when they pay damages for court cases, usually the money is distributed based on the damages that they feel. I don't know how it's gonna work, but anyway, 27 million, y'all. That's the highest ever in Minnesota or Minneapolis for sure, and they have settled that case as of today, this evening, as a matter of fact. The third degree charge has been reinstated in the Derek Chauvin case as well. It appears that this man is going to also have to fight that along with the other two charges. I believe it was manslaughter and murder. And so he's got to also fight those two. The judge reinstated it because the Supreme Court kicked it back to him. They weren't going to hear it, so it got kicked back to him. So now he decided to reinstate it, and it is what it is. And I figure they're going to probably be at least another week, maybe two, but I think about another week choosing the jury. And once that happens, I think they're scheduled to go forward around the 1st of April with the actual case. Now, interesting fun fact. Apparently, Derek Chauvin has not had anyone in his family come to sit on his side during the case because, the court only allows one family member per side to be in the courtroom due to COVID, and social distancing guidelines. And it appears that no one has come there, but they said that anyone who comes, of course, is not someone that'll be able to testify if they want to bring forward witnesses or whatever. They can't be in the courtroom at all. So I'm wondering are there going to be people from his family that are going to testify on his behalf, so that therefore there's not enough for them to come and be sitting there in the courtroom every day? Who knows? I don't know. I don't know the logistics, but either way, he's there, and the Floyd family has a whole host of individuals, and they've all been in and out of the courtroom for those who are not going to be testifying, because I can't imagine. The only thing I could think of them testifying in Derek Chauvin's case would be for character reference, which I don't know how far that's going to go. But, yeah, anyway. Now, here's one that I find incredibly disturbing. Nah, not disturbing, but ironic. Funny in a way. Clueless. Y'all's girl, y'all's favorite sister, Stacey Dash. Well, she wants her black card back. And for those of you who don't know, Stacey Dash was very vocal during Donald Trump's attempt at becoming president, and during his presidency and after. And she's had an awful lot of things to say that were not to the benefit of black folks, her own people. And now she wants her black card back. She wants to know, is she going to be invited to the family picnic? Can she come to the cookout? Well, y'all remember, I don't know if you remember, because some of y'all don't, everybody don't watch Fox News. It's garbage. But she was a pundit for Fox News for some time. And she supported Donald Trump after his remarks on Charlottesville, when he talked about there being very fine people on both sides. And she defended it. And she had a whole lot to say about black folks and what they should be doing and what we should be, and how, black people, if we wanted equality, we shouldn't be having Soul Train awards and those sorts of things. Whew. Po thing. Po little tank. Anyway, while they did their March on Humanity and supported white supremacy, she backed them, supported it all. She claimed that Donald Trump was not a racist. And, of course, since then, she's been blackballed from Hollywood. In other words, she can't get no work. Ever since she went on Fox News, she's been pigeonholed. And, she's feeling some kind of way about it. And the funny thing is this. She's actually a decent actress. I've watched some movies that she's been in. She was pretty effective in some of them. But it just saddens me, So apparently on yesterday, she apologized publicly in an interview, and she said, she should not have made all of her incendiary remarks. And she actually denounced Trump. And she also said, hey, I probably shouldn't have said those things, and I shouldn't have said them the way that I did, and so on and so forth. And her cousin, in case y'all didn't know, Dame Dash of the Rockefeller record fame, and of course, businessman, mogul today, her cousin, told her a long time ago, get off that. They actually fell out about it, and she didn't want to hear it. She kept on going down the road she was going. She didn't want to hear what he was talking about. Well, he tried to tell her that wasn't going to be a good look. Now she's mad because she's being typecast for her time as a commentator on Fox News, spewing hate and lies. And she wants people to now forgive her and believe her. Now, interestingly enough, Tina Marie said her publicist probably told her. Yeah, I think everybody told her. She's not very smart. Regina said, black card taken and burned. We do not accept her apology. She only denounced him because he lost. See, I feel the same way. But here's what she said. I've lived my life being angry, which is what I was on Fox News. Now, somebody explain to me, you're beautiful, because she is pretty now. You're a beautiful black woman, actress, with money, doing whatever you want, saying whatever you want. Please explain to me what it is you so damn angry about. Anybody? I just want to know. I mean, I got time. What happened? Well, anyway, she went on to say that she was the angry conservative black woman. And the anger was unsustainable. In other words, she finally realized that being angry wasn't going to get her nowhere. Imagine that. And she said that the anger destroys you. I made a lot of mistakes because of anger. I got time. I'm trying to understand what it is that she's so damn angry about. Oh, well. Anyway, she mad about something. I don't know what it is. Her and I don't even say this woman's name, but I will use her initials, CO. Both have done so much damage with their anger. Damage to the black community. Damage to black people. And black people's ability to be heard by the oppressors. So they are equivalent to what we refer to as the house Negroes, the bed wenches. Her opinions have made national headlines repeatedly. She said some very, very crazy and inflammatory things. And now, y'all, she wants you to forgive her. She wants the black community to say, you know what, Stacey, we understand. She wants us to do what we always do and turn the other cheek. Well, I think we're tired of turning the other cheek. Now it's time to start punching cheeks. I'm just saying. She wants y'all to forgive her. Forget. Let her past be in her past. Once a crackhead, always a crackhead. Anyway, Trump lost, and now she wants to jump ship. Yeah, whatever. And in case y'all didn't know, she railed against Black History Month. She said that we shouldn't have a Black History Month because we were perpetuating racist ideas. And if we didn't want racism to be around, then we should just forget all of the things that got us here. Yeah. She hated her blackness. Yes, she did. So I guess she decided she was going to make it bad for all black people because she hated being black so much. Imagine that. Oh, and let's not forget that since her career is now in the toilet and her white boyfriend didn't mind using her as a punching bag, now she's apologizing for her past trash behavior. Oh, boy. She claims that the Stacey Dash of 2016 is not the Stacey Dash of today. She says it's hard being a black conservative. And from her experience, she knows this. Why? Because she has experience in the street. And she says that I'm from the hood. Codes of the street are very conservative. And I agree with that. They are. The codes of the street are very conservative, as a matter of fact, especially the most disciplined of those. However, one thing else I can tell you about street code is that you know when not to talk. You know when to talk and when not to talk. You know that cracking out a turn might get you whooped up. That's street code. And apparently she missed that lesson as a part of the street. Street code. Yeah, okay. Well, we're going to move on to more important topics, which leads us to, let me go in with my Black Girl Magic shout out for the day. And that's going to be Miss Stacey Abrams of Atlanta, Georgia, who got out the vote in 2020. She did the thing, y'all. And because she did the thing, and this is where we're going with today's show, we're going to talk about Jim Crow and your vote. And you wonder to yourself, well, why are we talking about Jim Crow? Because Jim Crow is not a thing anymore. Aha! I beg to differ. Jim Crow is back, as though it ever left. She hurt those people in Georgia, the powers that be, who want Georgia to remain a red state. Because let's face it, Georgia not only lost the presidency, but they lost the majority in the Senate. Georgia. That's why Donald Trump has gone so far out of his way to try and remove those votes. To find votes for him to prevail in the election. Even if he won Georgia, he still wasn't going to win the election. But right now, we're talking about Jim Crow laws. And there's a reason why we're talking about Jim Crow laws. I'm getting ready to tie this history together for you like I always do. And this is where the lesson starts to come in for the night. Because I'm getting ready to show, people think that we're so far past certain things, but man, we are so close to them. It's unreal. How they say, so far yet so close. So I can't even think of the quote right now. Y'all have to forgive me. I'm off in La La Land over here. You got to remember that we are in a very, very strange time in regard to politics. It's beginning to be very reminiscent of a time that was not so good for black folks. There are people who jumped up and down, man, raised 9 kinds of hell during the last election, telling everybody how black people's vote didn't matter. It don't count. And saying all this type of nonsense. Look, y'all who follow this show have heard me say this repeatedly, and I'm going to say it again. If your vote didn't count, they would not be working so damn hard to keep you from exercising it. Do you realize that they have been doing this since the time that it was legal for black people to vote in this country? They have broken their necks at every turn to keep black folks from voting. This is the same reason why we had the Civil Rights Act or the Voters' Rights Act of 1965. There was a need. It had to be put there for a reason. That wasn't just something somebody was doing just to be doing it. It was for the ability for black people to use their own voice. If you don't have a voice in this, what difference does any of it make? Do you understand that if you're not voting and you allow just anybody to be in the legislation of your states, if you don't vote on a local level, that laws get put into place that make your life that much more difficult? It is so critical that we have the opportunity to make these choices. At the rate we are headed right now, the ability to make those choices is being taken away in baby steps. It is eroding. I promise you, it is eroding in ways that you can't even imagine. And everybody is like, it's a bait and switch. Everybody got their head turned right now, and you're not seeing what's happening. Y'all know who Jim Crow was? Jim Crow was a fictional character that was created by a guy named Thomas D. Rice. Now, Thomas Rice, he created this racist depiction of what his view of black people were and the way that, we live, our culture. And of course, during that time, y'all remember I did that show where I did the movie Rufus Jones for President, and I talked in depth about the stereotypes and ideas that came from that time. This is yet another play into that, where I showed the different cartoons where you had Bugs Bunny in blackface and all the other different characters and caricatures that played into the whole stereotypical idea of black people and black life. Well, the character was based off of what was known as a black folk trickster, like the black guy that go around pulling tricks and doing all kind of off the wall stuff. And his name was Jim Crow. Now, supposedly it was popular among black slaves prior to the actual debut of the play or his show that he was doing. There was a song called Jump Jim Crow, and he adapted and popularized what was a traditional slave song. And so that's what it turned into, Jump Jim Crow, which is a very racist song. Now the character, he's dressed in rags. I'm going to show you a picture of him. He wore a bed hat, or what we refer to as a bonnet or a do-rag. Now, I always hate to see people in them damn bonnets and do-rags and that kind of crap. But this right here is the depiction, one of the more famous depictions of Jim Crow. Now, a very interesting, this is something that I found out, interesting fun fact. During Childish Gambino's video, he depicted Jim Crow in that video while shooting a man in the back of the head. It never occurred to me, but I know that his I can't think of his real name, doggone it. I know that his knowledge of history and the things that he does and stuff that he does is not for nothing. But this right here is an example right here. Now, you see the position? I want to show you again that he is in. Now, pay attention. Look at his legs and his body gestures and his movements. And then look at this picture again. Jim Crow. That was a deliberate move on his part. It just goes to show you how deep people can go in their creativity. One more time. Boom. Look at that. Okay. So, the Jim Crow character became synonymous with black ignorance, if you will. Of course, perpetuated by white folks, right? There's no real actual. Thank you, Jaquilla Hughes said Donald Glover. That's it. I couldn't think of it. Oh yeah, Alex, you too. Thanks. They don't know the specific origin of Jim Crow, but Rice's stage show is who made it famous, and people eventually lent its name to the generalized negative stereotypical view of black people. So let's just think about it in the vein of, look at how far back the media began depicting black people in negative imagery. That it just goes to show, this before any media, any type of movies or any of that. Prior to all of that, still being depicted as something that we're not in the media, all the way back then. People don't realize that these negative images affect the way the world views us. It's a dehumanization. And like you always hear me say, the first thing someone does when they want to destroy you is dehumanize you. This is the very same way that Hitler was able to exterminate Jews. It's the same way that black people have always remained in bondage in one form or another, because of the dehumanization of our people and the continued nonsense that people believe about us that is not true. But that's just what they have been taught and what they've learned. And that's what has happened over the centuries. In 1838, Jim Crow was used, the term Jim Crow was used as an offensive term toward black people. And this was before Jim Crow laws were actually put into place. Kind of like Stacey Dash, they used the media to bash black folks. Well, she got her nigga wake-up call. Now she wants to be forgiven. Nope. The show was popular in the 1850s. Now, this is where we start getting into the meat of this. In the 1850s, that show was really popular, his play or whatever you want to call it. In the 1860s, he died. Or in 1860, he died. So by the 1870s, there was still a little bit of a memory of the show of the Jim Crow thing, but not so much. However, in the 1870s, it was, still on the radar. People remembered it. It's kind of like how you look back and you think about an old movie or something and you remember it. You're like, yeah, I remember that movie. Well, the whole Jim Crow idea and ideology was revived by none other than your president, Woodrow Wilson. So Woodrow Wilson, a racist president like the one we just got rid of, he's the one who actually signed the first segregation laws, federal segregation laws, into place. Now let's also remember, this is the guy who hosted the very first version, and I say the first version because we just got one a couple of years ago, called Birth of a Nation. Now the last Birth of a Nation was definitely not the same as the first Birth of a Nation, and I have to give the director, doggone it, y'all have to forgive me. These names be slipping my mind. Anyway, I think he deliberately named this last movie Birth of a Nation after this one to wash away the memory in some ways, so that when people pull up Birth of a Nation, the old one won't come up and the new one will. But Woodrow Wilson hosted the first showing of the movie in the White House. Now, this movie Birth of a Nation, if you've never seen it, I challenge you to take the time to maybe one day look it up and try, if you can, to watch the movie. It's very difficult to watch because it celebrated the Ku Klux Klan and painted black people as rapists and animals and monsters And I believe everybody in that movie, as a matter of fact, was white, and they all were in blackface. And of course, the Klan always rode in like the cavalry to save the day, because there was always some black man acting like an animal trying to rape a white woman through the whole movie. And there is a quote that no one has today confirmed yet that Woodrow Wilson said, that it was as if it was struck, written with lightning. In other words, now there's still speculation as to whether or not he actually said it. Nobody was ever able to actually prove it, but I don't believe that it was not possible for him to say it, because, I mean, look at who he was and what he did. So he's one of the people who helped to begin this segregationist idea legally in the United States. Now, Ida B. Wells fought very strongly against it to no avail. Ida B. Wells is one of my heroes, by the way. Ida B. Wells wasn't nothing to play with. She had the power of the pen, and she didn't mind using her pistol either. I like that about her. So anyway, the point is this. These segregationist and Jim Crow laws lasted all the way into the 60s. We're talking about 50, 60 years of people being told where they can and cannot go. Lyndon Johnson is the one who signed the Civil Rights Act. I know y'all don't know where I'm going, but I'm going to take you there. Just stay with me. So Lyndon Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act. Now, in case you didn't know this, here's a little fun fact. In 1941, Walt Disney, the animated movie Dumbo. How many of y'all seen Dumbo? I know everybody's seen Dumbo. In Dumbo, there is a character, a crow. Guess what his name was? Jim Crow. Of course, he was a black crow. And he sounded like, a hip, jive, talking, stereotypical black person. And they were asked about what that was about. Anyway, they claim it was a way to take a shot at the Jim Crow laws and the South and that kind of thing. That was their explanation. They talked about the oppressive laws and the things that were, holding black people down. Now, I haven't seen that movie in quite a while. I just thought that was an interesting little tidbit. And of course, I already, like I showed you the whole pose with Donald Glover and the Jim Crow. That dude's mind, the way he writes movies the way he does his music is incredible, because he's definitely on point with that. That's like, but see, the thing that bothers me too, though, is that so many of us, including myself, I didn't realize what happened there. But then at the same time, if I had not read about this or been reading about it, would I have known that? And there are so many things like that go over all of our heads, and it just bothers me that actually happens. And that's why it's so important to point these things out. But here's the thing. Here's why we're talking about Jim Crow. We headed back into Jim Crow. And it's going to be soon if we don't do something soon. The Republicans in Georgia, now this is just the beginning, y'all, have come up with a bill that has so far passed in the state, and it now has to go to the House, that will further restrict voting rights. Now, that takes us back to the Voting Rights Act of 1965. What they're trying to do is keep black folks from the polls by any means necessary. They still support the big lie. They still support doing anything they can to keep black people from voting. Same scenario that's been going on since the freedom of black people in America, since 1865. They're trying to keep black folks from the polls. People keep hollering, "Oh, vote don't count. It don't mean nothing." These people are not working as hard for nothing. Georgia proved unequivocally, without a doubt, that your vote does count. They're going to cheat. They're going to lie. They're going to make laws. See, here's what you got to remember. The law. The reason you are able to be oppressed the way that we have been over the last century and enslaved over the last 4 centuries, the law. Guess who makes the law? The people that you either vote for or don't vote for. Would you rather have somebody that you chose to come up with the ideas to create the laws that govern your life by choice, or would you just rather let anybody that falls up in there because everybody else voted and you didn't to be the one to make those choices for you? So now these lawmakers in Georgia are working very diligently toward locking down voting rights. This new package that was passed by a narrow margin on Monday would repeal the no excuse absentee voting. Now, remember, 1.3 million people in Georgia voted by absentee ballot in this last election in 2020. So that would have been 1.3 million votes that they just didn't count. Here's the problem. The majority of the votes that made the difference in that election came out of the areas where there is predominantly black life. They know this. They know that if they stop these 1.3 million, some of these farmers, some of these other people that are in places that are outside their reach, that they can stop losing. Georgia's a red state. They lost the presidency and the majority in the Senate in this last election. Why? Because black lives do matter. And they got an opportunity to see that firsthand, up close and personal. Now they mad. In fact, Donald Trump's conversations in which he had more than one, they just released a tape the other day of another conversation that he had along the same lines as the first one. They're now expanding their investigation into criminal activity. Why? Because it's against the law. These are the same laws they made now. Which takes me to what I always say, and I tell y'all all the time. Every time they do something to try to hurt us, they inevitably and indelibly end up hurting themselves. It's just a matter of time. It's called short-sightedness. Short-sightedness will get your ass in trouble every single time. I promise you. So now that legislation is going to go to the Georgia House, which has also passed its own agenda of voting restrictions as well. See, all of this after the Republican-run state has lost. Iowa, the governor there, Republican, Kim Reynolds, she signed a new law that makes it harder to vote early. Now, this Georgia law will not only take away the Sunday vote, a little thing they got in Georgia called Souls to the Polls. I used to live in Georgia. I remember that. On Sundays after church, everybody would get on a bus and everybody would go vote. They want to stop that. They want to take away more polling places. Let me tell y'all something. Let me just show you how petty they've gotten. They now want to stop people from being able to get hydrated in line to vote. In other words, if you're in line to vote and you're thirsty and I walk up to you and I say, here's a bottle of water, I can go to jail on a misdemeanor charge for vote tampering or whatever they want to call it. I don't know what they're calling it. This is part of the law, y'all. See, this is what you have to understand. What we're witnessing is a lead up to the reinstatement of Jim Crow and the removal of voting rights for black folks. Baby steps, microaggressions. That's what they call this. They call these microaggressions. You see how they doing this? This is the same reason why the NRA, for example, do not want and lobby against any changes whatsoever to the law where guns are concerned, because they feel like the minute you get one law done, then you're going to push for the next one. And each time you push a new one, then you encroach on their freedoms even further. This is what's happening to us right now. And every time we sit back and watch and wait while they do whatever they want, those microaggressions are going to end up becoming a major aggression when it's all said and done. The very people responsible for making the laws and taking away your rights are racist Republicans. And I'm just going to call them for what they are. It is what it is. And it's the truth. I mean, they're going to say that they're not racist. Of course they're going to say that. It's just like a defense attorney. You're going to say that a guy murdered somebody for standing on their neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. And the defense attorney, it's his job to say, well, that's not really what happened. Of course they're going to say they're not racist. It's their job. Now, here's the reason why these things are even happening. Because, see, you got to remember, years ago, they couldn't have done all of these things. They couldn't have made these laws. They couldn't have came up with all these weird ideas to keep us from voting. There's a reason why. I'm going to tell you why. It's called the Voting Rights Act, which recently, in 2013, got gutted. They gutted it. Republicans, the Republican House and Senate, they made sure that it all went in front of the Supreme Court, and in a 5-4 decision, they gutted it. They gutted the Civil Rights Act. The Civil Rights Act of 1957, signed by President Eisenhower, allowed federal prosecution of anyone who tried to prevent someone from voting. And he also created a commission to investigate voter fraud, something that we haven't even seen and now has been the big lie that Donald Trump is hinging his entire everything on. And you got a bunch of clone, what do they call them, cult members following him down that path. He's the Pied Piper and they the rats. Jim Crow laws were not adopted early on into northern states. However, black people still experience discrimination at work, trying to buy a house or to get an education. We still see some of that. And let's not forget that the reason redlining is actually a thing is because of the United States government. The United States government created and sponsored redlining after World War II, which effectively put black folks in ghettos among themselves with little resources in order to try to survive, and then talked about how bad off we were after putting us in that situation. And then the minute we build a community without the assistance or need for others, they burn it down and destroy it and do everything they can to hurt those who are being successful on their own. Don't believe nothing I say. Y'all hear me say it all the time. Don't believe me. Look it up. These are facts. This is exactly what happened. Do your homework. In some states, laws were passed to limit voting rights for black folks. The Voting Rights Act of 1965 banned all literacy tests. Why was there a need to ban a literacy test? Why? Because they tried to make people prove that they were smart enough to vote. How many bubbles in a bar of soap? Do you know your Constitution? And so on. And if they couldn't pass the test, they couldn't vote. So we already know how that went, right? Okay. Then you had, of course, the violence, just a straight out, you better not vote or we're going to burn your house down and kill your whole family. Yep, that was a thing. And then they had poll taxes. In other words, you had to pay a tax to be able to vote. On black voters, of course. Now, in 1962, the House of Representatives passed the 24th Amendment, which outlawed poll taxes. You didn't have to pay no damn tax to vote. It's supposed to be your freedom to vote. But that was yet one more way to try and keep black folks away from the polls. And that was, of course, that was federal elections, because this is where things get real funky. We did a show where we talked about states' rights and how they became enacted. But these poll taxes disproportionately affected black folks. You mess with some of them broke white folks too now. But it disproportionately affected black people, just like the laws that they put into place or trying to put into place now for different reasons. Virginia, Alabama, Mississippi, Arkansas, and Texas are the last 5 states that maintained poll taxes during federal elections. All southern racist states still to this day. So in 1966, the poll taxes were deemed unconstitutional at any level. So that's over with that. Okay. Now, like I was saying, in the case Shelby County versus Holder, on June 25th of 2013, the Supreme Court ruled in a 5-4 decision vote that Section 4B is unconstitutional. 4B. Now, the reason they decided to find that one little section to try and get rid of was because they knew that if they did that, it would negate the rest of most of the Voters' Rights Act. Okay. Now, here's the reason why they were able to, or why they struck it down in their opinion. They said it's unconstitutional because the coverage formula is based on data over 40 years old. Is that right? In other words, it does what happened. The reason why they put the Voting Rights Act into place 40 years ago, they're saying doesn't count now. Making it no longer responsive to current needs and therefore an impressionable burden on the constitutional principles of federalism and equal sovereignty of the states. Now, what does that mean? That means that it goes back again to states' rights. In other words, they're saying that the federal government has no jurisdiction over each state, who has the right to create the laws by which they govern their elections. But there's so much right there. There's so much right there. All right. So now Georgia and Iowa and a few other states are now working diligently to restrict voting for certain groups, and they're doing it in a roundabout way. They're not saying, oh, no, we don't want black people to vote. But what they're doing is making it as inconvenient as absolutely possible under states' rights. And the federal government can't tell them what to do. Well, the reason the federal government can't tell them what to do is because they removed the constitutionality of the federal government being able to say that you can't make no changes without our approval first. See, that was part of what the Civil Rights Act was. When you got rid of Section 4B, it now says, well, wait a minute, let me get to that. Without Section 4B, no jurisdiction will be subject to Section 5. Now, Section 5 is where the important part is. Pre-clearance unless Congress enacts a new coverage formula. Couple of things right there. Okay. Before the gutting of the Voting Rights Act, in order for a state to move polling places, remove polling places, make new stipulations, guidelines, and laws, especially in certain areas, they had to have a pre-clearance. So that meant they had to check with the federal government before they could actually make any changes in a state that would affect the voting ability of the people of that state, especially in the black community. Well, because 4B got deemed unconstitutional based on a BS idea that the information is old now, so it no longer counts, it automatically cuts out Section 5, which means that now we can make whatever laws we want. We can come up with all of the trickery we can come up with to create the ability for you not to be able to vote. This is why you're seeing all this legislation now. This is why you saw Donald Trump file all these lawsuits and all these different things. This is the reason why this is happening. Prior to 2013, none of this could have happened. So check this out. Let's just go back to Georgia. Now, they could take away as many polling places as they choose. So let's say they only have 3 polling places in Atlanta proper. Guess what the lines are going to look like inside Atlanta to vote? They're going to be super duper long. If I walk up to you, see, that's already inconvenient because they're going to make sure that it's an inconvenience for you to vote. So you might not want to show up. That's the whole idea. But if you do show up and you decide to stand out there all day and you my wife and you standing in line and you're hot and you're thirsty. I already voted. I voted early. See, and you voted and you say, hey, look, you know what? I'm real thirsty. I need you to bring me a bottle of water. And I walk up to you and I hand you a bottle of water. They can lock me up. That's part of the new law. No one can give you water. I wish somebody would please explain to me why someone helping somebody else stay hydrated in a potentially health damaging scenario, who would make that against the law? What inhumane individual would come up with something that foul? You got to be sick. But this is where we're headed. This is why I'm trying to tell you. Now, these states, they're getting to the point, they're doing everything in their power to keep you from voting. Now, one thing that I thought was interesting, though, this is one of the things I love about the law so much, is because every word actually literally means something. Like it's not just there by happenstance to make a sentence longer. It means it can change the whole way the sentence is structured and what it means. And this is why we need interpreters like those in the Supreme Court and other places. But we need people in the Supreme Court that actually are not biased. But one of the things that I think about when I talk about this pre-clearance, it says unless Congress enacts a new coverage formula. So y'all know what I think? I think that right now, while we have a Democratic Congress, or Democratic enough, a new formula, a new coverage formula needs to be created. A new coverage formula needs to be put into place so that these states can't just take it upon themselves and willy-nilly make changes. They claim that the reasons for being able to gut this Section 4B about jurisdiction and it being unconstitutional is because they said that the information is old. Well, I beg to differ. The information ain't that damn old. And in fact, I think we're seeing the same thing happen all over again. This is where we headed. I'm going to say like I always do. I hope I'm wrong. They trying to shut it down. We showed up and showed out in 2020. They don't ever want to see that happen again. This is a mission. But we still got black folks running around here talking about our vote don't count. Baby, if our vote didn't count, we would not be going through this. They would not be working this hard. They own overtime right now. Regina Freeman said the new formula should look a lot like the old formula. I agree 100%. Yes, I do. I do agree. It needs to, because it's getting kind of hectic, y'all. These microaggressions, they're going to pretty soon, you're going to look around and you're going to be like, oh, we can't vote today. We black. We got to wait till tomorrow. And it's the only day we can vote between 1 and 3. But that's only if the sun don't come out or some crazy nonsense like that. This is where we headed. It is meant to be difficult for you. If your skin tone, if you darker than a brown paper bag, you can't vote. They won't make it hard on you. That's why they're removing days from early voting, removing days and times and places for people to vote in certain communities, especially the ones where they know people can't move around like everybody else. See, the poor communities where everybody don't own a car and that kind of thing. So we put a polling place 13 miles away. So how you going to get there? But it's okay, though, because one thing I can say about black folks, the crazier you get with this, the more ways we figure our way out of it. It's just like anything else. See, resistance builds strength. Who knows that? When you do push-ups, when you do sit-ups, when you do squats, the resistance of your body builds strength. Resistance has always built strength or friction. Either way, something gonna happen. It's you either gonna get stronger or something gonna break. That resistance, they resisting. It's not gonna end well. Do y'all know that over 1,000 polling places have been closed in black communities in the last several years? 1,000. What was the purpose? And you ever notice it ain't never nobody of the Democratic Party, the Green Party, or no other party working so damn hard to close polling places and stop people from voting. Remember in the election, Donald Trump, stop the vote, stop the count. Stop the count. I won. Really, bruh? You're a loser, dog. Real talk. They move them, they relocate them, and they're coming up with more laws, because if you don't vote on a local level, these are the people that are creating the laws that govern your life. What is it going to look like when it's the law for the police to just walk up to you and do as they please? Oh, wait, that's right. They do that anyway. My bad. Something got to give, y'all. Something got to give. Jaquilla Hughes says, yes, they are trying to shut us down real hard. Yes, they are. Regina Freeman said, how many high-level Trumpanzees actually stood in line to vote? They all voted with absentee ballots, shooting themselves in the feet. Exactly. That's exactly what I just said. They inevitably hurt themselves. It never fails. And it'll happen again. This will come back to haunt them one way or the other. It's just a matter of time. And I just, what are you going to do? But all this goes back again to states' laws. States' laws were written into the Constitution for one purpose. And I can prove it. So don't ask me about it unless you want this smoke. States' laws were written into the Constitution for one purpose and one purpose only. And that was to maintain slavery. It's as simple as that. There were arguments, there were debates, there were questions, and all kinds of other stuff. I've done the homework. You're welcome to do it yourself. But this amounts to maintaining slavery. That's why states' rights became an actual thing. Because the white folks wanted to keep control of their darkies. They wanted to keep black folks on the plantation. They wanted to be able to do as they pleased with black folks. They want to tell black folks where they could go, where they couldn't go, what they could do and what they couldn't do. I'm going to ask you, what's changed? Ladies and gentlemen, I am your host, Brian Forbes, and this right here is the Black Factor. I'm not going to go much further into this rant, but I just wanted to say, y'all, we got to get on our square. We got to handle our business because midterm elections will be coming up next year. We do not have time to dilly-dally. We don't have time to play. We got to get ready for that. And we got to make sure that the people who would rather see us back in chains are not allowed to be in office. At least not enough of them for it to matter. We have to do something about that. Phyllis Harris says we also need to take a look at corporations, businesses that support and finance the Republican Party. Hit them in the pockets and get them to wake up. Black votes and black dollars. I agree with that. I agree 100%. But one of the problems, where we deal with in our own community is lack of unity and ideology. And I think our inability to share particular ideologies or realize that rejecting everything is not always the way, even though you may not wholeheartedly agree with something. If we don't have an agenda, no matter how we get to the end of that agenda, we are not going to succeed in making our presence felt financially in this country. We have the ability to do it. It's just a matter of actually doing it. It kind of reminds me of one time, over the years, people say something like, oh, okay, boycott Black Friday. And what we do, we still run out there and go stampede over each other at Walmart for TVs. Then they have a so-called blackout day. And then you get people, oh, hey, man, I gotta go to work. I ain't go. This is not how the bus boycott went in order for us to receive the freedom to ride on the front of the bus. No, black people said, I'm not getting on the bus. And they took care of each other in the midst of that. And they made the difference. If we don't do those things with the resolve that we want change, we're not going to get it. It ain't about asking. And one of the problems that we have as a people is we keep asking instead of doing. There's a lot we can do that doesn't require violence. There's so much we can do. But until we get on that page together, it's every man for himself. If I slap you with this open hand, I guarantee you it's going to hurt. But if I hit you with this balled up fist, see them fingers, they're together now. They're apart right here. They're all individual. I'll slap you and it'll hurt. But if I ball this up and put all them fingers together, I'm going to knock your ass out. That's what we have to do. And until we're able to come to that, we're going to continue to have these struggles. And in fact, and I've said this before, and I hate to be the messenger of doom and all that kind of nonsense, but the fact of the matter is, unless something catastrophic takes place in this country, I don't see things changing much. And when I say something catastrophic, I'm talking about some real devastating, damaging, thousands dead kind of catastrophic, millions maybe even. If that doesn't happen, right now we don't see any reason to get together to make a difference. We don't have any reason. People are eating well, living well, driving fly cars, and they're not prepared to give up their comforts and their freedoms. Not that you have to get justice, to get equality, to get the right to vote unhindered. At some point, we're going to have to pull it together. I am not optimistic. I'm very pessimistic about that. And like I said, it's going to have to come down to the world blowing up. before we figure it out. And that to me is very sad. So on that note, it's Friday. You ain't got no job. I'm going to go find me something to drink, something to eat. And I want to say that I appreciate each and every one of y'all. Do not forget, ladies and gentlemen, to get your copy of, wait a minute. The Black Factor. They're on my website, y'all, bmforbes.com, or you can get them at theblackfactor.com. Get your copy of the book. Oh, y'all, I'm very excited. I'm actually, when I get off the show tonight, I'm going to work on some jewelry. I got me a new toy today. Ooh-wee. I can't wait to go play with it. I got me a new engraver. Yeah, nice stuff. Anyway. All right. So look, y'all, thank you very much for tuning in. I appreciate each and every one of you. Don't forget to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the share button, hit the whatever button is down there. Hit all of them buttons because we need them buttons hit in order to support the show. Because I want to keep doing this, but I want y'all to know this is an expensive hobby. Very expensive hobby and very time consuming. I learn a lot. I do. I like that part. In fact, I think now I am about to work on my next book because I have clearly written another one already, just from my notes from all of my different shows. So I want everybody to have yourselves a wonderful, fantastic, super elastic, bubble plastic weekend. That's like supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. And I want everybody to have yourselves a great weekend. Kiss somebody, hug somebody. Stay safe, y'all. Just because it's the weekend don't mean you got to run out here without your mask on trying to be cute. You ain't cute. You're going to kill somebody if you don't kill your damn self. Love, peace, and chicken grease, y'all. We up out of here. Peace out.